Welcome to the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. Your hosts, Bill McKenna, Paul Robert, and special guests discuss ideas for creating alignment in your sales and marketing efforts and ways to accelerate growth. Now let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Paul Robert with FI Strategies. My cohort on the screen is Bill McKenna. Good morning, Bill. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Paul. I'm Bill McKenna from McKenna Marketing Network, and it's great to be with you here. I'm very excited to be working together on this new podcast.
Yeah, we've been working together with credit unions for many years. I don't want to think about how long it's been, Bill. I feel old enough anyway. But we've been working with them on marketing and sales and how important it is to their growth and their future success and, frankly, their viability. Isn't it that important, Bill? I mean, we've really got to focus on this going forward.
Yeah, we absolutely have. And you know, we've enjoyed a lot of time with different clients working together with them. And it's always been interesting how we've always talked about how you combine the credit union sales and marketing functions and how you create this 1-2 punch. As a matter of fact, we did a session called Sales and Marketing, the 1-2 punch. And that's kind of what I think sort of drove us into the idea of a podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, no question. And you know, I think we both know from our own personal experience how important it is for marketing and sales to work together. But as you alluded to, many of the credit unions that we worked with weren't doing that before. And once they started doing that, they really began to experience the impact of having marketing and sales working hand in glove. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like, Bill. You know, what's marketing's role? I'm going to quiz you here, see how much of that presentation you still remember. What's marketing's primary role, Bill, in this equation?
So do I get graded on how I do here?
Right.
Here's just a quick shout out to our sponsor, ironistic.com. Hey, in today's world, everyone knows the importance of having a great website and having an integrated digital marketing plan. If your credit union, community bank, or any other company is looking for that help, I can highly recommend ironistic.com. Check them out.
Marketing's job is to drive opportunities into the credit union.
Yep. Good. So
and
raise awareness.
What's your goal? What's your goal?
Okay, so I'm whoever oversees the delivery channels. Okay, let's first establish that. But your job is drive marketing, and it's to drive opportunities in the door. My job is to make sure that our people are positioned to capitalize on those opportunities. And I think that's where we drop the ball a lot of times. Bill, would you agree that we get opportunities, we get a lot of opportunities, but we don't capitalize on them like we should or like we need to. And so we're really going to try and provide actionable ways that credit unions can do that and can capitalize on those really unique and incredibly valuable opportunities that they have to deepen relationships with their members.
Agreed. And that's what this podcast is going to be all about. It's going to be us talking about ideas for marketing that are moving the needle, those new things that are happening in the industry. Right. We're also going to take time to talk to some people from the industry, both on the provider side, the vendor side, and also within credit unions to get perspectives from them with what they're struggling with, what they've seen, the opportunities. And Paul, you and I both know that this industry has evolved dramatically over the last bunch of years. Since I've been in it, we won't talk about that, as you just said, how long. But the truth is, when I started in this industry, there were 20,000 credit unions. That'll give you some idea of how long I've been doing this. And we know that the consolidation of this industry is continuing. And the credit unions that get it, the credit unions that understand the importance of being there in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, they're going to have to do the things that will allow them to survive. And we have those conversations every single day with clients. Don't you agree, Paul?
Yeah, no question. And, you know, you talked about how we're going to have credit union leaders on this podcast. I firmly believe in the concept of don't reinvent the wheel, right? If something's working, fundamentally working, at another credit union, there's no reason why you shouldn't at least consider it for your credit union. And that's why we want to have these leaders on to talk about some of the battle scars, some of the pitfalls that they've fallen into, but more importantly, the successes that they've had and what were the key drivers of those successes. And, Bill, sometimes it's just doing one thing a little bit different, or from a marketing standpoint, maybe honing your focus a little bit or changing something, a word here and there. That's all it takes. And if another credit union has learned that lesson, well, then let's position them to teach the rest of us how to do that the right way.
Most definitely. And, this, as I mentioned, there's some really successful credit unions out there where it's amazing. I see more and more of them each day that have done just a wonderful job in growth and strategy. They've done awesome things. So they may be asking, some of our listeners could be asking, who are these guys that are telling us about sales and marketing? Like, what do they know? So I'm going to give a real quick background on me. Again, I first came into the credit union space a long time ago. A guy walked into a design studio there and said, "Hey, can you do a newsletter for a credit union?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "What's a credit union?"
What's a credit union?
And which a lot of people still ask. A lot of people still ask that question. So that started my journey. And from there, I established a company called CU Marketers of America for 6 years, then Marketing Partners, which was, we grew to a really successful agency for credit unions around the country. And since that time, I've also spent time as a VP of Marketing at American Heritage Credit Union and a Chief Marketing Officer for a community bank called ESSA Bank and Trust, about a $2 billion shop. And obviously, having worked with 500 credit unions, I've learned a little bit about what works and what doesn't. Am I an expert? Not in everything, but I definitely understand what it takes to drive success and growth. And Paul, why don't you tell us quickly and our listeners about your background?
Well, I'll sheepishly admit that I grew up on the banking side, Bill. I cut my teeth in a large regional bank in St. Louis. But, there's a lot we can learn from those guys. We think that they are the devil incarnate, but in actuality, they don't do things much different than we do in terms of the blocking and tackling is concerned. And so anyway, I grew up on the banking side and 12 years ago started FI Strategies as a way of working with credit unions to really help them grow. Our name implies that we focus on the strategies, and we certainly did at the outset. We did a lot of strategic planning, still do that. But what we learned, Bill, is that you can have the best strategy that's ever been created, but if you don't have the right people and you don't have the right culture to execute that strategy, it doesn't matter. And it's never going to be successful. And so that's our focus today, is really on that culture side, on the people side, helping credit unions position their people to deliver and to execute on those opportunities, capitalize on those opportunities that we alluded to earlier. So there's a lot involved in there. We'll touch on much, if not all of it, as we go through this podcast. But you've got the marketing side, I've got the sales and retail side, and together I think it makes for a pretty powerful 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and it's been something I've been wanting to do. We've had some opportunities to speak together at different conferences and things like that. It's been great. So let's just touch back on marketing for a second. And, one of the things that I've seen over the years is a lot of credit unions haven't really spent the time they should preparing a really solid marketing strategy and plan. Yeah. There is so much that's changed. When I started, of course, a long time ago, things have changed dramatically. There's so much more digital marketing going on. One of the things that has changed is that we are now able to actually track success in marketing. Mm-hmm. So marketing does allow us now, and every CFO I've ever spoken to, or every presentation I've ever done of a marketing plan with a credit union, usually we're in that room or now maybe on Zoom, and we're sitting there and we got a plan that might have multiple pages. And I've always noticed in the CFO on the other side of the table somewhere, skipping through all of that stuff and flipping right to the back page. Yeah. And what he's looking at is how much is this going to cost me? Yeah. And so the amazing part is marketing does need to be accountable about what they spend. They have to be. But today, more than ever, we're able to track some of that ROI. Yeah. We're able to track some conversions and understand what that looks like. And that's really exciting. And Paul, what you do on your side in many ways is similar.
Well, think about
you make it.
Yeah, think about it. You just said ROI, you just mentioned conversions. That's the sales side of the equation. And so, if we're going to spend all this money on marketing, well, we've got to have the sales piece positioned in order to capitalize on that. Otherwise, it's money that's not well spent, Bill. So we've got to have both of them. It's got to be a tag team in order for marketing to be successful and in order for our primarily retail side to be successful as well.
For sure. And we're going to be talking about in some of the early episodes of the podcast, the 7 steps of branding, because we know how important today branding is. It's the idea of what makes you different, makes you stand out. And there's a lot of things we'll be talking about there that make a lot of sense. But the truth is that also when you talk about conversions today, you talk about more than just physical or one-on-one personal conversions. You're talking about digital conversions. You're talking about ways people engage, what type of content you build, how you get people to build the marketing journey. And that's another area that, boy, we will touch on in this podcast, having to do with what is modern marketing? What does it look like? What about data? What about automated marketing? What about all the new things happening in marketing? But again, they're still towards the basic of what we talked about. It's about driving opportunities. That is marketing's job. Create opportunities. And Paul, having worked with you and knowing your background, the deeper dive you do into the people part of this, the training, the accountability, all of that stuff, the culture building, that is so important as well. As a matter of fact, it's critical because the success of the people we have, it really makes a huge difference in our organization. And that's what you talk about, a lot of what you do.
And it is a change, Bill. I mean, we can't skirt that issue. We have to change. We have to change our culture. We have to change our people. In some instances, yes, we have to change the actual people, but in others, it's change their mindset, change their behaviors, change their priorities. We have to change that component of the equation if we're going to be successful going forward. Hey,
for sure.
we could talk for another hour just introducing the podcast, but we're going to have a lot of editions of the podcast to follow. I want to encourage people, Bill, that if they have success stories or they know somebody that we should spotlight, send it to us. Reach out to us. Let us know, because we want to make this interesting for you, the viewer and the listener. So let us know what we could or should be doing in regards to sales and marketing content as we go forward.
And yeah, definitely, Paul. And, our listeners are welcome to view our website, visit our website. And on that website, there'll be some resources available for you. And also, obviously, the episodes of the podcast, along with all the platforms where podcasts live, it will be there as well. So we're looking forward to this. And as Paul mentioned, if there's any feedback, if there's any way you'd like to connect with us, we encourage you to do that. We'll leave it at that for this first episode. And we encourage you to follow and follow us along as we do episodes. I think you're going to find value.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bill. Great seeing you. Really looking forward to this, and have a great rest of your day. Okay.
You as well, Paul. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.